This is the USS Gerald R. Ford, one of the world's most advanced aircraft carriers. A home to over 5,000 sailors, pilots, engineers, cooks, and mechanics, all living and working together in the vast Pacific Ocean. At this very moment, thousands of miles from land, 4,539 sailors sit down to eat, surrounded by nothing but water. But how do you feed an entire city at sea? Where does the food come from? And what happens when supplies start to run out? What it takes to keep this city alive at sea will shock you. Every day in the heart of the sea, the Ford runs like a city that never sleeps. And inside this floating fortress, feeding everyone might just be one of the hardest jobs in the Navy. The Ford is not alone. The U.S. Navy operates 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, each carrying roughly 5,000 sailors, entire floating cities that project American power across the seas. Ships like the USS Nimitz, USS Ronald Reagan, and USS George H.W. Bush face the same daily challenge, keeping thousands of sailors fed, rested, and ready for duty. Each of these massive ships can cost around $13 billion to build, making them some of the most expensive and advanced ships ever built. If you're proud of the American Navy, type "proud" in the comments. But no matter how powerful the technology, it's the people who keep these ships alive. 5,000 sailors working, sleeping, and eating together in the middle of the ocean. 3 meals a day for 5,000 people. That's over 15,000 meals, cooked, served, and cleaned up every single day. And yes, you heard that right. 15,000 meals a day. Not a week, not a month, every single day. Out in the middle of the ocean. All while the ship is moving through unpredictable seas, sometimes for weeks without resupply. Running out of food isn't an option. Every meal must be carefully planned, every ingredient tracked, and every supply delivery executed with precision. When fully staffed and operational, the Ford carries around 5,000 personnel, about 2,600 in the ship's crew, roughly 2,480 in the air wing, and around 100 to 200 in command and support. Together, they form a city at sea, from pilots and aircraft technicians to engineers, cooks, medical staff, and communications specialists, each one relying on those meals to keep them going. But even with all that organization, some things don't last long. Fresh fruit and vegetables usually run out within the first 25 days. So when supplies start to run low, a replenishment ship is called in. Sailors jokingly call it the DoorDash ship. When the carrier leaves port, it's packed with hundreds of thousands of pounds of food, stacked deep inside refrigerated compartments below deck. But eventually, those supplies start to shrink. That's when a replenishment ship sails alongside, for what's called underway replenishment. Cranes and cable lines connect both vessels as they move through the waves, transferring tons of supplies, from meat and milk to coffee, fruit, and dry goods, across a narrow gap between two moving giants. It's a risky operation. 2 massive ships sailing side by side, often just 200 feet apart, while thousands of boxes move across on swinging cables. In a few hours, the Ford is fully stocked again. Meals never stop. And once those supplies are safely below deck, the real work begins. Deep inside the ship, dozens of culinary specialists start their day long before sunrise. The galley, the ship's kitchen, comes alive with noise. Steam fills the air, metal trays clatter, and the smell of bacon, eggs, and fresh bread cuts through the hum of the engines. Feeding 5,000 sailors isn't just cooking, it's a non-stop operation. As soon as breakfast ends, preparations for lunch begin, and by the time dinner's done, it's already time to start over. The galleys aboard the Ford run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, serving food around the clock for every shift and schedule. You could say it's like your local McDonald's. If your McDonald's had to serve steak, pasta, and 15,000 meals a day, while floating in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. The chefs, known as culinary specialists, aren't your average cooks. Many trained at top culinary schools and competed in national cooking competitions before joining the Navy. Some even work alongside professional chefs during port visits to learn new techniques. Their skills turn limited ingredients into meals that could rival a restaurant, not just frozen trays and powdered eggs. And you won't believe what's on the menu. We're not talking about boring mess hall meals. The variety is incredible. Every day, fresh bread is baked right on board in industrial-sized ovens that never stop running. Giant mixers knead dough for hundreds of loaves, and massive steel kettles simmer enough pasta to feed an entire town. Menus range from tacos, burgers, and stir-fry to steak nights and even lobster dinners on special occasions. But it's not just about calories, it's about morale. A good meal can lift the entire crew's spirits. That's why traditions like Taco Tuesday, Pizza Night, and birthday cakes are such a big deal at sea. They remind everyone of home, even when home is thousands of miles away. Sailors line up across the mess decks, long rows of tables bolted to the floor, grabbing trays, eating quickly, and heading straight back to their posts. Most only have about 15 to 20 minutes to eat before returning to work. It's fast, efficient, and non-stop. Because on a ship that never sleeps, the kitchen can't either. Quick favor, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to like and subscribe. Most people don't, but it really helps us keep making more stories about America's military. After a long day of work, whether it's cooking in the galley, maintaining engines, or standing watch under the blazing sun, sailors finally head below deck to rest. But sleep on a carrier looks very different from what most people imagine. Deep inside the ship are narrow hallways lined with metal bunks stacked 3 high. They call them racks. Each one is barely large enough to crawl into, a thin mattress, a curtain for privacy, and a small light above your head. Underneath, there's a locker that holds everything a sailor owns. Uniforms, letters from home, and a few personal items they don't want to leave behind. Space is tight. You have to turn sideways to pass someone, and if you sit up too fast, you'll find out the hard way that the bunk above isn't far. The air is warm and heavy with the scent of metal, oil, and laundry that never seems to end. Sailors usually get about 6 hours of sleep, if they're lucky. There's no real bedtime. The ship runs 24 hours a day, so schedules constantly rotate. When one group heads to bed, another is waking up to start their shift. In some corridors, the lights switch to a dim red glow at night to help sailors rest, but it's never truly quiet. You can always hear something, the low hum of engines, footsteps in the hall, or a voice echoing through the intercom. Despite the tight quarters, sailors make the space their own. They decorate their racks with photos, flags, or drawings from home. It's not luxurious, but it works. Everyone learns to adapt quickly. Some sailors joke that after a few weeks, they could sleep through an earthquake. When you're working 12-hour shifts in a floating city that never stops moving, you learn to rest whenever and wherever you can. While some sailors sleep, others are already hard at work. Because on an aircraft carrier, the mission never stops. Every minute, somewhere on board, someone is standing watch, repairing systems, or launching jets into the sky. Far above the sleeping quarters is the flight deck, often called the most dangerous 4 acres on Earth. It's a storm of sound, heat, and motion. Super Hornets roar down the runway, catapults hurling them from 0 to 160 miles per hour in just 2 seconds. Seconds later, arresting cables catch incoming jets, stopping them from full speed to a dead halt in under 300 feet. Every sailor on deck has a color-coded role. Yellow directs aircraft, red handles weapons and explosives, green controls the catapults and arresting gear, purple fuels the jets, blue moves and secures aircraft. To an outsider, it looks like chaos. But to them, it's a perfectly timed dance of precision and discipline. Communication is done mostly through hand signals because it's too loud to hear anything over the engines. Even a small mistake, a loose tool or wrong signal, could cause catastrophic damage or cost lives. At peak tempo, jets can launch or land every 30 to 45 seconds, each operation timed down to the heartbeat. Rain, wind, or total darkness doesn't stop the deck. Operations continue around the clock. Every launch, every landing, is a mix of raw power and flawless teamwork, the very definition of American engineering at its finest. The Ford isn't just a floating airport, it's armed to protect itself. Around the ship, automated defense systems stand ready 24/7. Phalanx C IWS guns, the Navy's last line of defense, can fire 4,500 rounds a minute, turning incoming missiles into dust. Evolved Sea Sparrow and rolling airframe missiles handle threats from farther away, guided by advanced radar that tracks targets automatically. It's all run from a combat information center deep inside the ship, where sailors monitor every radar contact across hundreds of miles of ocean. If a threat appears, the system reacts in seconds. It's precision, speed, and American engineering working together, built to protect 5,000 lives and one of the most powerful ships ever to sail. Below all that noise is the ship's heart, where American engineering truly shines. Engineers work surrounded by roaring turbines, thick pipes, and 2 nuclear reactors that power the entire vessel. The air is hot, the walls vibrate, and every gauge matters. Each reactor produces enough power for a city of 100,000 people and can operate for over 2 decades without refueling. That's because they're fueled by enriched uranium, which releases an incredible amount of energy from just a few hundred pounds of material. While a normal ship burns thousands of gallons of fuel every day, the Ford runs for decades on what could fit in the back of a pickup truck. This is American engineering at its finest, a constant heartbeat of heat, noise, and precision that keeps the entire floating city alive. Keeping a floating city alive takes serious engineering, and it all starts with power, nuclear power. The Ford's 2 reactors generate enough electricity to power a mid-sized American city. They run the lights, computers, catapults, radar, and even the ovens in the galley. The engineers who manage these systems are some of the Navy's most skilled, trained for nearly 2 years before they ever touch a control panel. Every reading is watched around the clock, because precision isn't optional down here. But power is only half the equation. Out here, surrounded by salt water, the ship still needs fresh water, and lots of it. The Ford produces over 400,000 gallons of drinking water every day, using nuclear-powered desalination systems. That's enough for 5,000 people to drink, shower, cook, and clean. And it's often purer than tap water back home. When it comes to waste, nothing leaves the ship untreated. Food scraps are ground up before being released, garbage is sorted or burned, and wastewater is processed in an onboard treatment system. Living at sea for months means the ship has to take care of everything, from medical emergencies to mental health, from workouts to Wi-Fi. The USS Gerald R. Ford has its own hospital, not a small one, but a full medical facility built into the ship. It includes operating rooms, X-ray machines, dental offices, a pharmacy, and an intensive care unit. The medical team can handle almost anything, from a simple flu to emergency surgery, all while the ship is moving through open water. They've performed everything from appendectomies to dental procedures mid-deployment. If it's serious and they can't treat it on board, helicopters can airlift patients to nearby bases when the weather allows. Maintenance never stops. With 5,000 people depending on every system, from power to plumbing, something is always being repaired, tested, or replaced. Engineers check turbines, electricians maintain miles of wiring, and deck crews constantly repaint, clean, and inspect equipment. Even the smallest leak, short circuit, or jammed valve gets handled fast, because there's no pulling over at sea. The rule is simple. If it breaks, fix it now. Keeping a ship like this in perfect working order isn't cheap. The Navy spends well over $100 million every month on operations and maintenance for a single carrier like the Ford. Over its 50-year lifespan, that adds up to tens of billions of dollars, all to keep this floating city running safely, day and night. To keep morale high, sailors have access to multiple gyms throughout the ship, complete with treadmills, weights, and rowing machines. Staying fit isn't just about looking good. It's essential for the demanding physical work they do every day. And when they finally get some downtime, there are a few ways to relax. Movie nights, video games, and even barbecues on the flight deck, something sailors call a steel beach picnic, help break up the routine. When the sea is calm and flight operations pause, the flight deck transforms into a giant outdoor party. Grills come out, music plays over the intercom, and sailors relax under the sun with burgers and cold drinks. It's the closest thing to a backyard barbecue in the middle of the Pacific. During long deployments, the crew also celebrates holidays together. Thanksgiving dinners, Christmas trees on deck, and even costume contests on Halloween. The culinary team goes all out, serving full feasts that remind sailors of home. These traditions might seem small, but they keep morale alive. There's also a chapel on board where chaplains of different faiths hold regular services. For many sailors, it's one of the few quiet places on the entire ship, a spot to breathe, reflect, and recharge. Unlike decades ago, sailors today can stay in touch with family through limited internet access and email. Some even take online classes or video call home when satellite connections allow. It might not be fast, but for those far from home, even a short message means everything. Out here, surrounded by nothing but water, life runs on rhythm. Work, eat, sleep, repeat. Days blur together. The noise never stops. But neither does the mission. Every sailor aboard has a job, from the cooks in the galley to the engineers below deck, from pilots launching jets to the electricians keeping systems online. The ship runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Each sailor works about 12 hours a day, often more. Sleep comes in short bursts. Even something simple like taking a shower or doing laundry is limited. Water is rationed carefully and lines form fast. When work finally ends, sailors find their peace in small ways. Watching the sunset on the deck, lifting weights in the gym, or grabbing a midnight snack from the galley. At night, when the deck goes dark for flight ops, sailors say the stars are brighter than anywhere on Earth. And in that silence, just the wind and the hum of the engines, you realize how far you are from home. 5,000 people, all working, eating, and sleeping inside a floating city, united by one mission, to keep it alive. Because out here, service isn't just a job, it's sacrifice, discipline, and pride. And every sailor aboard the USS Gerald R. Ford carries that pride with them, across every wave, every storm, and every mile of open sea.